Here's what's new in firmware version 4.0. In order to install the new firmware, you'll have to use the OneTouch app, version 2.0 or newer. A quick visual check to see if you have an app compatible with firmware updates. You'll see Create Virtual Machine up here in blue at the top. If you want to see your actual app version, click Settings in the upper right hand corner, and it'll display the version down here. If you don't see this version or one of these versions on your phone, just delete it from your phone and reinstall it, and you'll have the latest version. When you connect to a machine with the OneTouch app, it'll now compare the firmware version on that machine with what's available on the server for newer firmware. If it sees a newer version, you'll get this prompt on the right letting you know there's a new firmware version available. You can select later and do it at a later time, or hit View Updates and start the update process. The update process takes about 4 or 5 minutes to complete, but during this time, when you're connected and doing the firmware update, you can't leave the app, you can't send a text, you can't answer your phone. If you do, it'll simply disconnect and you'll have to start the process all over again. If during the update process you get an error, simply turn off your machine, restart the app, and try the process all over again. Here's a quick overview of the firmware update process. When you open the app, you'll see this first screen. When the machine pops up, go ahead and select Connect. When it connects, it'll compare the firmware version on the machine with what's on the server. It'll go ahead and prompt you that there's new firmware available. Select the blue button, it'll take you to the update screen. This update screen is also available if you go to the settings, and you'll see firmware versions. And you can roll these forward and back. Here you'll see version 3.1 in this example, which is currently what's installed, and you'll see the new one, which is 4.0. Go ahead and select Update. It'll take you to the screen where it will connect. It'll take 4 or 5 minutes to complete, and you'll have a progress bar going across the bottom. When it's complete, you'll see the update complete. Go ahead and select OK. Turn off your machine, turn off your app, and restart, and you'll see all these new features. The first new feature you'll notice when you restart the machine is there's now an hour meter. This hour meter will track the hours once you install the new firmware going forward. It also keeps track of the mileage, that is like an odometer. You can go into the app under the Maintenance tab, and you'll see your hours and the number of miles the machine's been driven. On top of that, we've also added service intervals. We have service intervals now for both the oil change for the engine and the hydrostatic oil change. The engine oil change will come standard from the factory, set for every 50 hours. This value is adjustable from as low as 25 or up to 100. And when it's time for an oil change, you simply come down and hit Reset Oil Change, and all these values here will be updated automatically. The hydrostatic oil change operates in the exact same fashion. The machine will now notify the operator when the engine is due for an engine oil change by illuminating both the engine oil light and the service indicator light. Additionally, it will also notify the operator when the hydrostatic oil needs changed by just illuminating the service light. And if you see the oil light blinking, this means the engine is low in oil, and you should stop operating immediately before you do engine damage. The new spot spray feature allows the operator to use the spray wand more effectively. The way this works, if the operator is spreading or spraying and wants to use the spray wand, now they simply select spot spray, and the control goes into standby, and the spray pressure automatically changes to 20 psi. They make their spot spray, put it back, select any other button on the control or thumb switch, and the control reverts back to exactly what it was doing prior. This prevents operators from having to go in and change the pressure setting or calibration, just use the spray wand. Additionally, the original function is still there. It's now a long press to activate it. What this allows you to do when doing a granular application, you can use the left yellow thumb switch to spot spray in whatever direction you're applying granular fertilizer. We now allow for separate spray pressure settings for both wide and narrow. The reason you would do this, if you want to set up your wide spray for 10 feet at 50 psi, you can, and then you can go into your narrow in the app and set it for a lower spray pressure for better drift control. And what this does for the operator, all they do is switch from wide to narrow, and the spray pressure settings will adjust automatically. With this new functionality, if you were to take a calibration created on a version 3 machine, all it would do now is take that single spray pressure and apply it to both wide and narrow, like you would expect. Additionally, if you have a spray calibration created in a version 4, and you're to load it back on a version 3, you would be prompted that there's a new firmware update. But if you hit skip and go ahead and load it anyway, it'll take the wide spray pressure and use that for both wide and narrow. My favorite new feature in this firmware update is the additional bar graphs. The way this works is that we now have bar graphs that shows the operator in real time how much liquid or granular is available on the machine while they're using it. So the way this works, you have 2 bar graphs. Each one has 5 segments. Each segment represents 20% of the capacity. And when you get down to the last segment and it starts blinking, you're under 10%, telling the operator it's time to head back to the truck and refill. So the way this works, we'll cover the spray side first. When you're filling up the tank, just press these two buttons, the bar graphs will automatically fill up. The tank capacity is driven by this field in the app where it's at 22 gallons. You can set it at 20 or 21 depending on how full you would normally fill up the tank. Additionally, if you want to fill the tank halfway and you're out on a job, you can select these two buttons. It'll show the 22 gallons here. It'll start blinking. Hit the left arrow and you can reduce 22 down to whatever number, 10 or 12 gallons, and it'll perform the same functionality. Additionally, on the spread side, we have this same field set at 150 pounds, which is standard for most products. But if you're doing grass seed or lighter organic product, this number would be less. It might be 100 or 120, just how much product you normally would put into the tank. It'll automatically calculate based on the calibration and accurately represent how much material is left in real time. Additionally, if you want a more accurate representation of how much material is left in the spray tank, you can select these two buttons when the machine is in motion and it won't reset. It'll just display exactly how many gallons are remaining. In the same way on the fertilizer side, if the machine's moving and in motion, you select these two buttons, it will show exactly how many pounds of fertilizer are remaining in the hopper. Another new feature is wheel slip detection. Anyone who's driven a Gateway Applicator knows it's hands down the best machine for hills due to its extremely low center of gravity and lightweight. But with every machine, there's limitations what it can do. If you've ever had it stuck in a ditch due to soft ground or mud, or an extreme hill where the high side tire was spinning, you'll notice that the ground metering doesn't respond the way you expect it to. Now with the new firmware update in less than a tenth of a second, the machine will recognize this condition and adjust accordingly. We've also made improvements to the parking brake logic. The way this works now, if an operator forgets to turn off the parking brake and drives the machine, even if the control is still asleep, it'll automatically release the brake and reset once the machine turns off. This software also comes with some minor bug fixes. I really look forward to getting feedback from customers. What do you think of all these new features that's now available to all Gateway applicators? Additionally, I can't wait to show you what we're working on next, which will come out in 4.1.